Hello my friends, and welcome back to the next tutorial installment of the Homestead House. My name is Penny and this is Little by Little. It is a chilly day here in the Great White North. Winter is finally upon us. I think our temperature today is minus 26 with the wind chill, which if you're in the United States, that's about minus 14 Fahrenheit. And if you're wondering why I live in a country where the wind hurts my face, let me tell you that I ask myself that same question every winter. But weather is relative, right? I was in Las Vegas recently where the temperature during the day was well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I thought I was going to die. So it really depends on what you're used to. In today's tutorial, we're going to be completing the third piece in this little set with this little bedside table. So this matches the dresser and the wardrobe that we've made in the last two videos. It's also the last piece of large furniture for the bedroom. As always, your cutting instructions will be listed below in the description box, and I'll have a short clip of materials and tools that you'll need for this project. I hope you enjoy. All right, I have a few different widths of wood that I'll be using for this project. So the first one is this 1/16 of an inch, and I'll be using that just for the inside of the drawer. I have 3 32 of an inch Obesh wood, which I'll be using for the majority of the nightstand. And then I also have this very thin piece of veneer, which is just more of a decorative piece. It'll just go on the front of the drawer front, and it's about 1 millimeter in width. I also have a 3/16 of an inch wood square dowel that I'll be using to make the feet for the nightstand. Besides the wood, I have my setup blocks, which I use in almost every project to keep everything square. I have a couple different types of glue. I've got my Gorilla wood glue, and then I also have some E6000 glue because I will be gluing some metal pieces onto the front of the drawer. And speaking of those metal pieces, I have this little handle which matches the handles on the wardrobe and on the dresser. And they come with these two very tiny little nails, and that's what I'll be using that E6000 glue for. I have some sandpaper. Now I personally sand all of my wood pieces after I've cut them and before I glue them together. And again, that is just my personal preference. You don't have to do that. I just find it has a nicer finish at the end. I have my toothpicks, which I use to apply the Gorilla Glue. I have a couple of clamps for applying that veneer piece onto the front of the dresser front. And then I also have my wood stain, and this is a Minwax. It is a dark walnut color, and it's a semi-transparent penetrating stain. In order to keep my mess to a minimum, I have some shop towel, some parchment paper, and then of course my brush to apply the stain. We have a ruler, a sharp pencil, my X-Acto knife, a pair of tweezers, and then I have my little hand drill. And this has a drill bit that is 0.6 of a millimeter in diameter. And the last thing that I have is my little miter box saw, and I'll be using that to cut the feet for the bottom of the nightstand. Okay, let's get to work. Our first step is to put the back piece on top of the base. So your base piece is piece number A, and your back piece is piece number C. And we're going to place the edge of the back piece on top of the base so that it sits at a 90-degree angle like that. So we'll go ahead and glue that on. I like to use my setup blocks because it makes sure that I have a nice 90-degree angle. And then next we'll add the sides, and they'll sit actually on the outside of the base so that if you were to look at it from the side, all you'll be able to see is that side piece, like that. And then the other side. And if you're going to be staining your piece of furniture, I always recommend that you go in and just take out any excess glue that's squeezing out the sides. While paint will paint over glue, stain will not. And so if you have excess glue that's dried on the side and then you stain over top of it, the stain won't stick to the glue, so you'll have patches. So you want to make sure that you do that. If you've forgotten and you've got some glue, you can always go in and sand it off if you wish, but it's easier to catch it when it's fresh, obviously, than after it's dried. And our top piece is going to go on next, and it's going to sit flush with the back of the nightstand. And you will see that there, like the dresser, there is an overhang on the outsides of about 2 to 3 millimeters on each side, and then there's also 2 to 3 millimeters on the front. So we'll go ahead and we'll glue that on. So you're just going to put glue on those top 3 sides. And I find it's easier to just lay it back on the back so that you've got that nice flush back. And I'm just eyeballing the sides to make sure that they're even. And we'll press that down. Next, we'll add in the shelf. And if you marked out your lines from the cutting instructions, you should have a line on either side of the inside of the sides at about 12 millimeters from the top, and that's where we're going to place our shelf. I'm going to place my shelf underneath the line because I do want the 12 millimeter space for the drawer. So we're going to put that aside for now, and we're going to build the drawer. So for the drawer, you'll need pieces G, H, 2 pieces marked I, and then piece F and J. We're going to put our drawer front together, but first I want to dry fit and make sure it's going to fit in that space. And this is why I always recommend that you wait until you reach this point before you cut these pieces, because you'll get a much better fit. So that looks like it's going to fit well. So we'll start by gluing this little veneer piece onto the front of the drawer. And we'll definitely want to clamp these because this little piece of veneer is very, very thin. And if you don't clamp it, chances are it's going to warp. So we'll let that dry and we'll put together the rest of the drawer. So again, always doing a dry fit to make sure everything will fit in there once it's together. Let's put piece H on top of piece G. And then these pieces, which are your side pieces marked I, are going to sit inside of that L shape, like this. Put that aside as well to dry. Before we put this front piece on, we do have to make some holes so that we can put our handle on. So I'm going to lay out my handle where I want it to be, and I'm just going to mark where the holes are. And all you need is something sharp. Even a toothpick will do, because this veneer wood is so soft that even a toothpick will poke a hole in it. There we go. And then I'm going to use my drill, and I'm going to drill all the way through to the back. Okay, now before I put my handles on, I'm going to stain that piece, so I'm going to put my handles to the side for now. And now I'll glue the front of the drawer onto the drawer base itself. So we're going to add the feet next, and these are just the 3/8 of an inch pieces from the square wood dowel. And I am just going to sand just a little bit because I do see a little bit of a rough edge on there. I'm just using my 400 grade sandpaper, which is a very, very fine paper, because I don't want to take any of the length off by mistake. But I just want to get rid of these little hairs, so to speak, from the cutting process. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and glue those on. You can measure in if you like. I just eyeball. And I'm just making sure that it's about 2.5 to 3 millimeters from the side and from the front or back, depending on which leg you're putting on. if you're putting baseboard in your house, which I intend to do, you want to make sure that you leave room and have enough room there to accommodate those baseboards. I did that once. I made a piece, everything was flush against the back, and then it had to sit out from the wall, which, you know, if it's sitting out 2 to 3 millimeters in your real house, nobody will notice, but, you know, it makes a big difference in miniatures. We are ready for stain. So I'm going to just go ahead and stain the whole piece. And this is the type of stain that you brush on, leave for a minute or two, and then wipe off with a cloth. So I've got my little piece of shop towel, which can just be tossed in the garbage after. This is the same stain that I used for the wardrobe and the dresser, because it is a matching set. And as I've said in the other videos, the more coats you do, the darker it's going to be and the nicer the finish. I'm purposely only doing one coat because I do want it to have a bit of an aged look. And you can see with one coat that when you rub it out, it does tend to leave a few grain marks that look like they're a little bit older or more worn, and that's on purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this piece, and then we'll be back. All right, everything is stained now, and you'll notice that I only stained the front of the drawer front. I didn't stain the back of the drawer. I didn't think it was necessary. And you'll see, because I've used a couple of different types of wood, that each wood picks up a stain a little bit differently. And so the front of this piece is a little bit lighter than the back. And again, that's because it's a different type of wood. And so the last thing we need to do before we pop that drawer in is just to add the handle. And I wanted to stain the piece before I added the handle so that I didn't get stain on the handle itself. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I always use E6000 glue when I'm gluing metal. I just find that it holds metal better. And so we're going to go ahead and put, first of all, the handle where it needs to be. Then I'm going to take my little nails, I'm going to dip them in the E6000 glue. It's a little bit like hot glue, it leaves little strings. And then we're going to pop that into the hole that I pre-drilled. Okay, I'll do the same to the other side. There we go, and there's our handle, and then we can just pop it in. So that's it for this little piece. I have left this little area open on purpose because I do have something very special that I want to display in that area. But we'll talk about that in an upcoming video. My next video, I'm going to be actually going back to work on the house a little bit. I do need to install the doors and I do need to put some baseboard down before I get much farther. But after that is completed, the next two videos from there will be dressing these rooms. So if you've been following along, you'll know that I've finished now all of the major furniture for the kitchen and for the bedroom. So I want to add all of the accessories next. And so we'll be doing that very shortly coming up. And I'll talk a little bit more about that piece when we get there. But until then, I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. If you haven't already, I hope you consider subscribing. And please, if you have any comments, suggestions, I always welcome those below in the comment section. But again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.